Hello, fam, YouTube fam. I am Mama Robin or Texas Beach Mom, whichever you prefer. Welcome back. If you're new, as I said, I'm Texas Beach Mom. I do Watch Wednesdays and I do live stream on Friday nights. Tonight's live stream is the Menendez brothers, and I have a hard time saying that every time I say it, and I'm always saying it. Um, I want to talk about how their case is going. Um, so give me a second. Let me pull up some information I just had. What's next for the Menendez brothers? Okay. As everybody knows, there is a possibility of them getting paroled. I mean, it's not just going to be one, two, three, snap your fingers, and they're going to be running around loose. There's a lot of steps they have to take before they get there. But they've already been in prison for over 30 years. So, um, I personally think they, at the very least, deserve a retrial, at the minimum, a retrial. But let's talk about some other cases first that are on my mind because as I discuss these other cases, you'll get mm, why I feel like they don't really tie into it, but you'll get why I'm bringing them up. Back in June 13th, 1980, um, Candy Montgomery killed or not best friend, but her friend Betty Gore. Um, Betty Gore and Alan Gore knew Candy Montgomery and her husband Pat from church. Their kids knew each other, played together. Their daughters went to gymnastics together. And Betty really didn't have any friends. And I don't think Candy so much liked her as much as Candy felt bad for her and wanted to befriend her, so to speak. But she wasn't really a good friend because while she was being Betty's friend, she was having an affair with Betty's husband, Alan. And then they apparently called off the affair. And according to Candy, she went by the house to pick up some stuff from Betty. Actually, Betty's daughter was spending the night at the Montgomerys and wanted to spend the night again and needed a swimsuit. So apparently, Candy went by the Gore's home to get the swimsuit. And according to Candy, and we don't know because Betty's not here to tell us about it, um, Betty hit her with an axe 41 times and called it an accident. Um, she got, was it scot free? Walked away scot free. This happened, like I said, June 13th, 1980, in Wiley, Texas, which if I do know Texas a little bit, I know that it is a suburb. I think it's a suburb of Dallas. If it's not a suburb of Dallas, it's up there in the Dallas Fort Worth area. So anyway, um, the way Candy tells it, she went over to get a swimsuit. Betty approached her with an axe. Um, Betty approached her with an axe and said, "You can't have my husband." They struggled. Candy took the axe and didn't hit her once or twice or three times. She hit her 41 times and walked away scot free. Not only did she walk away scot free, but she went on to be a mental health counselor. Okay, but that happened. So Candy Montgomery hit somebody with an axe 41 times, walked away scot free. Then you fast forward to Gypsy Rose. Everybody knows that case. There's no reason for me to go into the details of the case, just that, basically she was abused. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. She was abused. The state of Missouri has proof of the abuse. Otherwise, she would have done a lot more than 8 years. But because she did um, organize, organize is probably not the right word, but she did organize the killing of her mother and possibly participated in it. Even though there was abuse, she was sentenced to 10 years and then did 8 years and now is walking around scot free, willy nilly, just doing as she damn well pleases. She's done not a damn thing to make her life any better. Um, and again, I realize there are people that absolutely cannot stand her, and there's people that defend her. I'm kind of on the fence with this one because I do know she suffered a lot of abuse, but by the same token, she hasn't done anything to improve her life. Now we have the Menendez brothers, and they're still in prison. They've been in prison for 35 years. I think 35 is the total. Could be wrong on the total, but they've been in prison for a very long time. It's been over 30 years because they were given life with no hope of parole. They didn't axe a friend 41 times and walk away scot free. They didn't orchestrate and possibly participate in the death of their mom and walk away after 8 years. No, no, no. These two boys were also mentally, physically, and sexually abused and are still in prison. They were sentenced to over 30 years. They were sentenced to life with no possibility of parole. They've been there over 30 years. I think at the very minimum, if Candace Montgomery can axe her friend 41 times, and Gypsy Rose can participate or orchestrate or both the death of her mother and walk away after only 8 years and be a social butterfly, I think these boys deserve, at least, at the very minimum, they deserve some. At the very minimum, they deserve a retrial. Um, but this is not just going to go willy nilly. Um, see if I can find something on this real quick. Give me a second. I had some stuff pulled up. They are, like I said, in the prison system. They've been in there for 30 years. I feel like they deserve, at the very minimum, a retrial. The LA County DA has requested that they get seen by the parole board and get paroled. Now, we don't know if that's actually going to happen. The original thought was is they would get retried and hopefully get out. Now it's just a matter of going to the parole board and getting them paroled. Here's the thing: they did kill their parents, but and there's no excuse for killing your parents, none. Um, but I personally feel like that the 30 some years that they've been in there, I think they've served their time. If other people can kill a best friend and walk away scot free, or participate or organize the murder of their own mother and walk away after 8 years, I feel like these two at least deserve to be heard because there was evidence that wasn't allowed. There was evidence that wasn't, or there was evidence that was not allowed, or there's been new evidence that's come up. And I think the new evidence needs to be seen. Now, like I said, the whole idea is the parole board will have to kind of hear it again. They'll have to go over the case. They'll have to talk to the men. They'll have to see what they're doing. And then once they agree that they should be paroled, It'll be handed over to the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and then he gets to pardon him or whatever it is. I don't know the law there on that one real well, and there's been a lot of speculation, but I do know this. According to the DA, they have been model prisoners. They have done everything they can to improve their life. They've even helped other prisoners do better. Now, they could have, because they got life with no parole, they could have um just said, hell with it. We're in here for life, doesn't matter what we do. But no, they're choosing to better themselves. They chose to better themselves while they're in there. Now, of course, if they get paroled, they're not just going to be out running around willy nilly. They'll have to get a job, and they'll have to not do drugs, and they'll have to do this. And they'll have a lot of rules, and they'll be watched a lot. But I think they deserve to be heard at the very minimum. Um, I don't remember that much about it when it happened because I was like, let me think. I was probably, God, I was a kid when it happened. No, wait a minute. How old was I? I'm not going to get into how old I was. I don't remember that much about it initially, but I do remember the case. I mean, I remember hearing about it on the news. I remember my parents talking about it. I've talked about it with other people. And the more I get into it, the more I learn about them. Now, there is a Netflix documentary out there that I have not seen yet, and I have no intention to seeing. Hi, Darlene. How you doing tonight? Um, I have no intentions of seeing it. I have heard people say that it's crap. Their own attorney has said it was crap. The brothers themselves are very upset with how they were represented. But on the other hand, they need to actually be kind of grateful because even though they don't like the way they were portrayed, they need to be grateful because that documentary, that Netflix documentary, is what brought their case back. That's the thing that's bringing their case back. That's the thing that's getting everybody to know them again. So there's a lot going on with them. Like I said, the next thing that'll have to happen is they're possibly, yeah, what's next for the Menendez brothers? Okay, I'm gonna be reading because um I don't have the information. Pretty good still. We're out from trick or treating. An 11-year-old boy. I can almost imagine. I can almost imagine. I sat up last night for a while. I We have so many kids in this apartment complex. Most of them are little kids, I would say from 3 to 15, and there's quite a few, and I had, like, $20 worth of candy, which really doesn't say much, but it was about 20, and it was decent candy. It was Whoppers and Hershey's and Reese's peanut butter cups and crap like that, and Airheads and Starburst. A lot of it was good candy. And I sat up all night waiting. Well, not all night. I sat up a little later than normal. Was waiting for somebody to show up. Not one person knocked on my door. And then I got online and realized there was like 4 different Halloween carnival type things in my town and surrounding towns. And I'm like, oh, well, that's why nobody showed up. They were all at these carnivals. But what I was saying about the Menendez brothers. Okay, this is what's next for them. I was kind of depressed about it last night. I was kind of down. I was like, I went to bed and I was like, nobody came. But now I know next year not to mess with it. I got a bunch of extra candy in the house that I obviously don't need. Um, and I'm trying to stay out of. Um, but yeah, I know next year not to mess with it. Matter of fact, I figure out what some of these places are at, and I might go to these carnivals myself. Knows. I still enjoy that kind of stuff. Okay, so what is next for the Menendez brothers? Eric and Lyle Menendez, and I always tear up this name. I don't know why I can't say it. Eric and Lyle Menendez Two brothers convicted of murdering their parents more than 3 decades ago are one step closer to being released from prison. The brothers are currently serving life in prison without possibility of parole in California. The Los Angeles County District Attorney formally recommended their resentencing in a court filing on October 25th, arguing for a lesser sentence for the pair. On October 30th, George Gascon sent letters of support to the governor arguing for the change. If approved, the request would make the brothers eligible for parole. Um, while it is a significant development in the case, while it is there's great grip the nation, it is one step on what could be a very long road. And not everyone is happy at the prospect of them potentially regaining their freedom. Yeah, on that note, I of people not being happy about it. I watched a live stream of the DA, his press conference, and there was some people protesting it, and there supposedly is a family member that's against it, but there's people there for it. Well, so and yeah, I took a shower before I did this. My hair's not even dry yet. Okay, resentencing request includes details from time in prison. The 57-page court motion filed by the district attorney's office, obtained by BBC News, includes a timeline of the case, an argument why the Menendez brothers should be resentenced, and the details of their time and resentenced and the details of their time behind bars. The filing includes glowing recommendations from prison officials and various programs the brothers launched behind bars that were aimed to help other inmates, including those who were victims of childhood traumas, disabled disabled or elderly inmates. This also includes the educational degrees both brothers received while serving their sentences. See, I didn't even know that much. So while they've been in prison, they've been helping other inmates. They've got their educational degrees. They have helped victims of childhood trauma. And I'm not trying to throw shade on Gypsy Rose, but from what I understand, she didn't do any of those things, and she's not doing a damn thing to help anybody but herself. Whereas these boys have been in prison for over 30 years, and they have been excellent. They have done a lot. Um, they're finally okay. All of this was done, the report notes, without any expectation or hope of ever being released. In other words, yeah, they didn't think they were ever going to get out, and they still did all this stuff. They did this instead of taking the attitude, well, I'm here for life anyway. I might as well just do what the hell I want to do. They took the road of, you know what, we're here, but we're going to make the best of it. So they've done a lot for themselves, and they've done a lot for other people. This also includes the 30-year discipline records for both Eric and Lyle. The brothers were cited for possessing a mobile phone in a cell they shared with other inmates. So the biggest trouble they got into is they had a cell phone. Oh dear Lord. Eric Menendez had several other violations, including 2 fights in 2011 and 1997. See, here's the thing. I believe they've probably been in fights, and I will tell you why. I've never been to prison, and I don't want to. But I've known people that have been there, and it's not a good place. It's not a happy place. And without sounding weird, they were very attractive kids. They were, in some light or some way of looking at it, I'm sure, considered somewhat pretty, especially Eric. And so, being young men and being pretty boys, I'm sure they had to do a lot of fighting. I'm sure they had to defend themselves a lot. But Eric Menendez, and he was the little one. He was the younger one, and he was the shyer one of the two. He's had several violations, including fights in 2011 and 1997. It notes that Lyle Menendez was never cited for any fights and had to be removed from the general population to the special needs area of the prison. And in 1997 because he wouldn't fight back when attacked. So Lyle, the older one, wouldn't fight back when he was attacked. But Eric, the little one, the shyer one of the two, apparently fought back and got in trouble for it. But and again, I'm not picking on them, but they were young men and they were pretty, and you've got a bunch of desperate men that have been in there a while. Yeah, I bet they had to fight back. Let's see. He wouldn't fight back when he was attacked. He was cited twice for contraband, a lighter in 2013, and a pair of Adidas sneakers in 1998 that a female visitor bought him. So a female visitor brings him a pair of sneakers and he got in trouble for it. I mean, whatever. While incarcerated, Eric and Lyle Menendez have transformed and taken advantage of the meaningful opportunities to mature, move beyond their criminal thinking, repent, and become productive community members. The filing states, adding that they are ready to reenter society. So, what happens next? Well, this is what happens. Friday's filing on the basis for the district attorney's office argument that will be made before a judge on the way the brothers should be resentenced. The next step will involve resentencing hearing on the 11th of December at the Van Nuys West Courthouse in Los Angeles. Oh, they're not going to be home. And see, family was hoping they'd be home in time for Thanksgiving. I don't think they're going to get that wish. Will be a resentencing hearing on the 11th of December. Okay, so yeah, they're not going to make it home for Thanksgiving, but they might make it home for Christmas. Who knows? The Van Nuys West Courthouse in Los Angeles, where a judge will hear arguments for and against the charge. A top LA prosecutor backs Menendez brothers being released on parole. Notorious Menendez brothers murder case is to be reviewed. The office of Mr. Garcon, the Los Angeles County District Attorney, is asking that they be sentenced for murder. Under California law, based on the age they were at the time of the crimes, that would make them eligible for parole immediately. The district attorney said at the news conference Thursday. His office has said it's possible Lionel Eric Menendez may be attending the proceedings. The hearing is likely to be continuous. Mr. Gascon, I'm probably butchering this poor man's name, and I'm sorry, noted that the case has divided his office members, and his staff might argue against him in court. Oh, shit. That could get interesting. The hearing results in a judge approving the new sentence. Attention will shift to the California Parole Board. Okay, so if the judge approves it, then it goes to the California Parole Board. The board will examine the case and whether the Menendez brothers are a threat to society if they are released. Even if the board approves of release, Governor Gavin Newsom could decide to halt the proceedings. Now, see, I personally don't know Gavin Newsom, but because we do live in the political climate that we live in, um, I know a little bit about him. And from what I know of him, I I don't think he would. I think he would allow them to be released if it was up to him. I think he would allow it. He doesn't come across as hardcore. He comes. No, I'm not saying he's a softie, that he just lets people run around loose. I mean, Kamala, uh, Vice President Kamala was a attorney general there. So, and she put a lot of people away. We're not going to get into political discussion. Too many people go the opposite direction to clash. I don't want to do it. But what I was talking about that for was Gavin Newsom. I don't know him personally, but he doesn't strike me as somebody that is a hardcore person. So Gavin Newsom might decide to halt the proceedings, but I don't think so. What has the Menendez family been saying? Earlier this month, more than 24 members of the Menendez issued a public plea for Eric and Lyle to be released 35 years after killing their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez. The family members alleged the boys endured horrific sexual abuse at the hands of their father and are not a threat to society. Now, see, I personally, like I said, I obviously don't know them either, but I don't think they're a threat to society. I don't think they're going to run around shooting people. I could be wrong about it, so it's probably best that I'm not making this decision, but I don't think they're a threat to society. Kitty Menendez's sister, Joan Anderson Vandermolen, argued the whole world wasn't ready to believe that boys could be raped or that young men could be victims of sexual violence. She said, now that we know better, a jury today would not deliver such a harsh sentence. And I've said that before. Not only have I said that before, but I've said if they had been girls that had been treated that way, they wouldn't have gone to prison, I don't think. I don't think two girls would have gone to prison. Just like before you came on here, I talked about Candy Montgomery killing her friend Betty Gore by axing her up. And I know this is graphic and violent, and I'm sorry, YouTube. That's what happened. By taking an axe to her friend 41 times, and she walked away scot free. I used Gypsy Rose in examples. Yeah, she was badly abused. State knew she was because they had proof of it. Otherwise, she would have gotten a lot bigger sentence than she got. But 8 years later, she's running around as being a social butterfly. Yep, they're absolutely. If that had been two girls that had been sexually abused by their father and they killed their father, uh, they wouldn't have gone to prison, I don't think. Or I don't remember the name of the person, but the movie was called The Burning Bed, and it had starred Farrah Fawcett, and it was about a woman that was badly abused by her husband repeatedly, and she ended up lighting the bed on fire with him in it. Hence the name of the movie. And I think she got out of it. I think she went scot free. So that's what I'm saying. Had these been girls, thank you. I That's what we're talking about. I think they should be. But I'm talking about the it's going to go. Okay, so saying that they didn't want to believe that young men could be victims of sexual violence. And like I just said, had it been girls, they wouldn't even gone to prison. I don't think they would be in prison. But because it was boys, oh no, boys can't be abused. They can't be sexually abused. Well, they can be, and they are. Gypsy's mom didn't have Munchausen by proxy. I believe she was a con artist for sure, but she wasn't making Gypsy. She was an, well, on that one, I honestly don't know, and we obviously won't ever know uh Claudine's side of that, Dee Dee. But like I said, the state of Missouri has proof of abuse, or she wouldn't have been sentenced. A 10-year sentence really was pretty light. She wouldn't have been sentenced so lightly. She would have been a much harsher sentence if they didn't have proof of some abuse. They had proof of the medical abuse for sure. The rest of it we don't have proof of. And she's been caught lying. So no telling what she's actually been through. But she orchestrated and possibly participated um her mother's death. So and she's out running around being a social butterfly. So yes, I think after 30 years they deserve to be released. Um anyway, they didn't but the family isn't in total agreement. A lawyer for Kitty Menendez's brother Anderson called the brothers cold-blooded killers. Said their actions shattered the family and left a trail of grief that has persisted for decades. Well, let me tell you something about that, Mr. Milton Anderson. Their father was brutal with them, and he abused them in many ways. I found out some things, more little thing about her light sentence. Um, if you want to share that with me, that would be great. I would like some information on that. Um, I do believe. Here, you can email me if you want. I don't care because I don't. This is what I use for just this anyway. So, it's not my own private one, but it's I don't care. I've lost my phone for a second. Mhm, 64. I don't even know my own. Like I said, I only use this particular email for YouTube. So, oh, I misspelled my own. Hold on. Text. If I could spell. Don't worry about this one because, like I said, this is strictly for this channel. It's not going to bother me if somebody has this for this channel. A lot of YouTubers do this anyway. Text more at Gmail. So .com. There. So you can email me that information. What Barbara Hershey movie? I mean, I didn't say anything about Barbara Hershey. If there's a Barbara Hershey movie that it has something to do with what we're talking about, let me know what it is. Otherwise, I'm confused at the moment. But I'm old, so I get confused easy. Back to the Menendez. Okay. Let's see. And brother says cold-blooded, shattered their family. The grief persisted for decades. Jose was shot 6 times, and Kitty was shot 10 times, including shot to her face after Eric reloaded. Mr. Anderson believes his nephew should stay in prison for the heinous acts, according to his lawyer, Kathy Caddy. Okay. I don't believe in that. I mean, I do believe that they've done. In other words, yes, they did what they did, but they did their 35 years. A lot of people do worse crimes and get out a lot sooner. I just used Gypsy Rose as an example, and then, like I said earlier, there was the case of Candy Montgomery axing her friend 41 times and walked away scot free because it was an accident. She didn't mean to kill her. I just watched that again today, and I'm like, no, no, that's bullshit. And as we've all discussed already, if had these been girls that had been sexually abused by their father, they wouldn't have gone to prison. I don't believe at all they would have gone to prison. Um. Anyway, why is this happening 35 years after the killings? Nima, oh, I cannot say this name. I'm gonna mess this up. Nima Rom- Romani, a criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor, told the BBC that it was a perfect storm of PR and politics has led to the Menendez brothers having a real shot at freedom. Candy Montgomery, when she asked her friend Betty Gore, got out of there scot free. The day when her trial was over, she left. She walked out of that courthouse scot free, no punishment whatsoever. Then she moved to another state and became a mental health counselor. Excuse me, WTF and why? Why? How is it that she did what she did? How is it that it's easy to do because I'm old, but how is it that she did what she did and walked away scot free? I was mind blown. Every time I watch that, I'm mind blown. I'm like, and then went on to be a mental health counselor. Give me a break. And back to the Menendez. Um, he noted that the recent attention to the case has gotten from ha, case has gotten from celebrities, a Netflix drama and docuseries in the case, and an embattled district attorney vying to remain in the office. Um, that's next door. My doors are locked. Just was this. I always hear it. Right now. It's gotten cool enough here that I'm trying to save money on my light bill, and it's gotten cool enough that I've turned off my central air and I've got window fans going, and it doesn't feel bad in here at all. And that night air feels good. So if it's too loud, if the fan's too loud, someone let me know, and I'll turn them down. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of this, but anyway, he says you're never going to see another case like this. It's a unicorn. The Menendez brothers filed a motion in May 2023 detailing the new evidence of their case and requesting that their convictions be vacated. Mr. Gascon said his office had been reviewing the case for more than a year, but he said that he made the decision to recommend their resentencing on Thursday, only an hour before holding a highly publicized news conference on the landmark case. Okay, thank you. Because like I said, I went ahead, it's cooling down enough at night and through most of the day that I went ahead and turned off my central air and I decided to run fans until it starts getting too cold. But if they're too loud, just let me know. If all you hear is fans and not me, let me know. The decision was announced 12 days before Election Day, which made Mr. Gascon is in which Mr. Gascon is running for re-election as the Los Angeles County District Attorney and is down by 30 points in some polls. He has denied his announcement was political and he said it's a long time coming. It might be political, but at this point, if they get out, I mean, if it benefits them, I don't know, man. I guess I'm for it because I really feel like they've done their time. I think their 30 odd years is enough. The decision came renewed attention to the case spurred by the Netflix drama Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story, as well as release of a docudrama, the Menendez. Feel free to laugh. The Menendez brothers. Jesus, I still didn't do it right. Um, I haven't seen the Netflix docudrama. I was talking about it briefly earlier when I first started doing this. I've not seen it. I've heard it's nothing but crap. I've also heard that the brothers don't like the way they're portrayed because there are some things that are over dramatized theories and they don't like the way they're portrayed and they want to sue. Um, and I get them wanting to sue, but on the other side of that, on the flip side of that, they, yeah, they don't like the way they were portrayed. I get it. But that show is what got them noticed again. That's what got them back in the news again. That's what got people talking about it again. So for as much as they don't like the way they were portrayed, and I get it, um, and that's why I won't watch it because I've heard too many bad things about the way they were portrayed, and I don't think I would like. I think I'd be mad because I don't believe some of the things that were implied. I appreciate somebody besides me has a hard time with it because I screw their name up all the time. I don't mean to. It's not personal. Minette, Eric and Lyle. We'll just yeah. Like I said, I haven't seen it. I did get I don't first of all, I don't usually subscribe to Netflix. I did this month because there was something else I wanted to watch about the Rodney Alcala thing being on the dating the he was on the game show The Dating Game, and I wanted to watch the movie about that. I'm sure the newer documentaries are closer to the truth, but I have no intentions of seeing the Monsters one on Netflix. I have no intention of seeing. I'm not want to see it. I don't want to see it. I've not heard anything good. And personally, like I just said, I am not big on Netflix anyway. I'm not a Netflix girly. I got it for one movie. I paid the $6.99 for the cheapest plan they had. Watched the one movie I wanted to watch, and I've already canceled my subscription. Now, because it's paid for, I can continue watching Netflix through the rest of the month, until my month is done. But I've already canceled it. I watched the movie and canceled it. We'll get into what I was watching when I get done covering this for a quick conversation. But anyway, um, the series introduced the case to new generation and garnered attention from celebrities, including Kim Kardashian, Rosie O'Donnell, who has called for the brothers to be released. Rosie O'Donnell has done a lot for their case. So Kim K, but I have to be honest, and I might be alone. You might want to throw tomatoes at me. I might hear about it in the comments. I am not a Kardashian fan. I feel like that they do some good things, but I don't wholly believe they do it for the good. I think they do it to make themselves look better. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong about them. They might be wonderful people. I don't buy it, but whatever. Why did the why did Eric and Lyle kill their parents? There we go. I won't even say the last name. Well, Motive has been along the heart of the case. Prosecutors painted the brothers as spoiled rich kids who killed their wealthy parents in their Beverly Hills mansion so they could access their $14 million. Yeah, she's actually, from what I know, and I don't know her that hello, Otis. I, you know, I don't have anything against Rosie O'Donnell. She has done a lot of good for some people. I don't want to get into a lot about her because talking about her also leads into politics. And I'm trying not to do politics on YouTube because people are so clearly divided. And I don't, no matter which way I go, I'm going to make a bunch of people mad. If I pick one or the other, I'm either going to make one side mad at me, the other side mad at me. So I just try not to. But anyway, and talking about Rosie somehow gets into all that because, yeah, we're not going to get into that. I'm going to stop right there. Anyway, prosecutors painted the brothers as spoiled rich kids who killed their wealthy parents in Beverly Hills Mansion, blah, 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 get their 14 million. They argued that due to methodically, be, due the they argue that the duo methodically bought shotguns and fatally shot their parents a total of 13 times as the couple watched TV. Then they went gambling, they went to parties, they went on shopping sprees, they bought things like Rolex watches. They may have. Um, It was ultimately a confession to the psychologist that helped them, led them to the arrest. Wait a minute, I need to reread that sentence. That sentence ain't something's wrong here. It was ultimately a confession to a psychologist that helped lead to their arrest when the girlfriend of the doctor audiotaped their admission and reported it to the authorities. She was blackmailing him. We talked about this in another. She was blackmailing. She first of all, the girlfriend was also a patient, and she was blackmailing the doctor, so his word isn't worth shit anyway. Um, the brothers ultimately admitted to the killings, but argued that they acted out of self-defense after their years of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. The court that they feared their parents would kill them even if they didn't act first. Lyle and Eric testified and confronted their parents about the sexual abuse, and things had become combative in their household, and they believed their parents were planning to kill them. Family members testified about the abuse witnessed, but no one said they saw sexual abuse firsthand. Well, no, most of the time you're not going to see the sexual abuse firsthand. It's not like you're hiding in the closet or something watching dad mess with the boys. I mean, Jesus, they're not going to see it. The twists and turns in the story made it infamous, and even 35 years later, it continues to be the catalyst for new documentaries and films. So, the next step is to go before the parole board and see if the parole board's willing to put them on parole, in which case they'll be monitored. They'll be required to get jobs. They'll be required not to drink, well, probably not to drink, but not to do drugs, not to hang out with felons, da 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 da. Uh, uh, it also, Governor Gavin Newsom has something to do with it. Um, so, but I don't think he's going to keep them from. I mean, if the parole board agrees on anything, he's going to let them go. They could be, with their trial being their thing before the parole board being on December 11th. They weren't going to be home by Christmas. I mean, by Thanksgiving, like the family wanted, but they might be home by Christmas. I mean, again, they will be on parole, so they'll be monitored, they'll be watched, and everything. But you know, they'll at least be out. I feel like they've earned it. I do. I feel like they've earned it. What I was talking about earlier, and a lot of people have forgotten this story even existed. A lot of people have either forgotten this story or they didn't know the story was even a thing. Rodney Akala, who was a serial killer in the late 70s, early 80s, killed anywhere between, here's the number, we all holding on to our seats. Hold on to your butts, ladies. They have him down from killing anywhere from 11 to 130 women. That's a gap. But anyway, Rodney Akala was on the TV show The Dating Game, and he at that time had already been, yeah, the dating game killer. Yeah, I watched that. That's the only reason why I got Netflix, to watch a movie called The Woman of the Hour, about the girl that won the date with him and then kind of backed out at the last minute because she thought he was creepy. She saved her own life and didn't even realize it. He probably would have killed her too. As a matter of fact, I do think, yeah, he was really messed up. I think, oh, it is true that a kid, a teenager, a runaway that he had gotten away from him, and that's how he got turned in. Um, he was a lot of people forget that he even existed. And the first time he was tried, he was let go, and he killed more people. And then they caught him again. They tried him again, and they went in and kept him this time. She did. Um, I mean, I know that the movie, I mean, they're very clear that is a fictionalized story based on the true events. They make it very, very clear. They don't try to portray it as absolute fact. Um, but from what I've seen on documentaries and what I've seen on news reports and what I've read, um, she played into him. The teenage girl that got away from him did the opposite of what everyone else did. Instead of running from him, which 90 would have done, they instead of running from him, she kind of ate into him. Like, hey, baby, that was fun. Got a little rough, but it was fun type attitude. Da 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 da. And he was like, all right, well, maybe I'm not gonna kill this tomorrow. And as soon as he pulled over to get gas or something, sh- booked it, left, disappeared, called the police. They, whatever, and that's how he got busted. That's the only reason why I got Netflix. I didn't get Netflix for the men, for Eric and Lyle. I'm just not gonna say the last name anymore. I'm just gonna say Eric and Lyle. But Menendez. I think I did it right that time. But I got Netflix for that movie. He assaulted that poor little 8-year-old girl, and the parents wouldn't let her testify because she was traumatized. But when she was grown, she came back and testified. Yeah, I know. I saw something about that. I found that there. That's how a lot of these creeps and these weirdos get caught, because one person, one woman, one child, one whatever, had instincts and something in them said, don't run, or don't do this, or don't do that. Don't play into it. Don't run from him. Don't make him matter. Play into it, and it works. I mean, there's been a few women that escaped Ted Bundy. Um, Back in the late 70s, early 80s, Bob Bordella was killing young men in Kansas City, which is where I'm from. And my first husband was one of the people that escaped his house. It was before him and I were married, but he escaped Bob Berdella's house. He was There was like 2 or 3 men that had managed to escape. Matter of fact, it was my first husband and one of his friends that went into the house to party with him. They thought they were going in to party with him, and my ex's friend was killed, and while his friend was being killed, he knew the friend was dying. Like, he knew there wasn't no saving him. He left. He got out of there. And, so people, well, you should have tried to save your friend. Um, Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, man. Because if you know the friend's going to die, I mean, like, there was nothing to save him at this point, but Bedell was busy, so he just said, bye, I gotta go. And out the door he went. And he was about half naked, but Yeah. I mean, like I said, he caught a lot of crap from other friends going, "You should have stuck behind. You should have helped so and so." And I don't give his name. I don't give the friend's name. I know the story. I just don't give their names. I protect the families on this one. But yeah, he got a lot of crap from other friends. Like, you should have stuck around. You should have helped so and so. And he didn't. He left. But he was like, I know he was done. Like, he was dying anyway. So yeah, he escaped by Bordella. A lot of people didn't even know he was. When I tell people there was a serial killer in Kansas City, they're like, when, where? It is fight or flight, and because your brain decides what to do. Like, your brain decides you're either running or you're going to fight, and it's like almost any situation, whether it's a volatile marriage you're in, a bad date scenario. We're not going to get into what kind of date. Um, but a bad date scenario, people are saying that's right. The people that are saying probably would have done the same thing. They probably would have, but they gave him a lot of help. I was when I when I found out the story, when I saw the paperwork and stuff that he had, his reports that he had to give the police. He still had that paperwork when I met him, and he was telling me about it. And it's not that I didn't believe him. I kind of sat there, so he showed me the reports he gave the police. He showed me a copy of his police reports because I was sitting there like, like, "Oh my god." And I'm gonna tell you something that happened to me. This was many, many, many years ago. I was probably 20, 21, and I was living in Independence, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City. It was me and my first husband, the one that went to the Bob Berdella thing. And I was living in Independence, Missouri, and there was a park by my house. And, me we lived in an apartment complex, and me and the girl above us had become friends. And I had a dog, I had a German Shepherd, and he was a big German Shepherd. And I had a German Shepherd, and we used to take him into the park and walk him around the park. I mean, it was a park across the street from our complex. It wasn't directly across the street, it was like across the street and about half a block down the road. It was walking distance. But there was a park that we used to go to all the time. We used to go to this park all the time. Her and I went to this park all the time, took the dog with us all the time. And one day we're in the park, and this old man approaches the two of us two young girls, and my dog. And he's trying to stay away from the dog. Like, you can tell he's bothered by the dog, and I could tell the dog didn't like him. He wasn't growling yet, but his fur was up through almost the entire time I was talking to him. So I kept watching the dog, and because dogs know that shit. But anyway, I was with my friend, and I was kind of watching the dog, and I was kind of watching him. And at one point, he was asking me questions about the dog, like how big, like, was he grown? How trained was he? He had a lot of questions about the dog. And so he was trying to separate me and my friend. What he was doing was he offered to give my friend. There was a 7-Eleven up the street from the park, kind of across the street and up. And he was offering my friend, he's like, "I'll give you $5 if you'll go up to 7-Eleven and get 3 big gulps, one for each of us, and you can keep the change, but take the dog with you." And she was like, I don't know." And I looked at her like, "Mm-mm." He said, "No, it's cool. Her and I are just gonna sit and talk. You take the dog." I've had a very interesting life. I really have. I mean, that's why I have old videos, like, before I started doing this stuff. But, anyway, I thought about writing a book. I might someday. But anyway, so I'm sitting here at this park, like I said, and I got my friend with me, I've got my dog with me, and this old man is trying to talk her in to leaving with the dog to go to 7-Eleven and get 3 big gulps. He said, "Here's $5, you go get some." big old, "Take the dog with you, and me and your friend will sit here at the table and talk." I gave her a look, and she's like, at first, I thought she was gonna try to leave. Well, when she said something about leaving, I said, "Well, no, if you're gonna leave, you leave my dog here with me. Don't take my dog with you." And he said, "No, go ahead and let the dog go with her." Well, I don't remember exactly how we got out of it. I don't remember what was said word for word, but basically, we were kinda like, "You know what? I we gotta go. I've got dinner to cook. My husband's gonna be home in a little bit. We gotta go." So we went home, and I went to cook dinner, and I was telling my husband about the thing at the park, and he was kinda like, "Well, he's just probably a lonely old man. I wouldn't worry a whole lot about it." 2 nights later, 2 2 nights later, we were watching the news, and it said something about the Hill Park rapist was caught today, da da da, blah blah blah, man. And it was a picture of the old man I'd been talking to at the park, the one that was trying to separate me and my dog. Talk about instincts. Talk about instincts. I was like, because my friend was kind of like, okay, I'll go get some cokes. And I thought, no, don't you dare. So I was like, no, don't you dare. Don't you even leave me. So yeah, he was raping. Hadn't killed anybody. He was raping. I mean, not that I wanted to be raped either, but hadn't killed anybody yet. But he was raping women there at that park. He was getting them off in the trees behind the picnic tables and stuff, and he was raping women. He'd been caught 2 nights later. It was on the news. It was like, I'm so glad I followed my instincts. That's one time in my life they came in by 2 guys in a pickup truck when I was 15, thankfully. I was street smart and got away on there. Oh, I I can help you. I got one kinda like that one too. No, it didn't happen to me. When my oldest child was we were still in Missouri, because I didn't move to Texas until I've been in Texas 13 years. So we were still in Missouri because she was a kid. She was in, elementary school. Her and her friend was, you know how when you're standing outside the school and the buses have pulled up on one side and you've got another little circle side where the parents pull up to pick up the kids? They were, you had to walk around the car area to get to the buses the way it was set up. Her and her friend were walking towards, well, they had walked by some cars to get to a bus. And the only reason why I know about this is because when it happened, one of the teachers happened to see it and she took the 2 girls in. But anyway, before the teacher saw all this, well, what the teacher saw happening was they walked by a van and there was a guy in the van that reached out of the van, like opened the door and reached out of the van and went to grab my daughter's friend's jacket and had kind of part of her jacket, and she was able to pull away. And the teacher ran up and ushered them in, and they called the police and all that. But they called me. They said, "You need to come get your daughter." Da da da. She wasn't attacked, but her friend was. Da 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 da. So I had to go get her, and she was terrified for a long, long time. I took her back and forth to school. Like I made sure she didn't have to walk on any buses or nothing. Not only was I scared for her, but she was scared herself. She didn't want to do it no more, and I don't blame her. Um, when I was about 12, me and my friend Margaret were in a Kmart. I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of Kmart because I don't think there's any more. I don't even think there's a store anymore. But there was a store called Kmart. It's kind of like a Walmart. It's not quite as big, but something along the lines of a Walmart. And me and me and my mom and my friend Margaret were in a Kmart. And my mom had gone to look at dishes or whatever, and, we were 12, 13 years old, so she let us run loose in the store. We were supposed to meet up with her at the registers later or something. I don't remember, because I had a watch on, but we were allowed to run loose in the store like a lot of kids were at that time. And we noticed a guy that seemed to be following us, like he would be a couple aisles over. Okay, so you know what Kmart's are. So there was a guy that seemed to be following us, and he like we would move and he would move, and we would move and he would. Well, I noticed that he was. I nudged my friend Margaret. I pointed at him. Well, one point we looked over at him. He had his hands down his pants. Now, I wasn't scared. Matter of fact, I think I giggled about the fact I was 12. I think I giggled about the fact that his hand was down his pants. But he was following us through the store, so eventually it kind of got my attention. And I thought, well, wait a minute, this ain't right. When I first saw him, I kind of giggled about it. You know, the man's gross. He has his hands in his pants. And then something in me went, wait a minute, I should tell my mother. So we found my mom. We told her to left. But there's all kinds of creeps and weirdos running around out there. And children are not safe. They weren't safe then. They're not safe now. I mean, people aren't safe. I feel kind of safe where I am right now. I can walk my dogs after dark, and I don't mind it a whole lot. Because I walk them before I go to bed at night. It's already dark by that time. Now in the summertime, it's usually not, but we're in fall now, so it's getting dark earlier. But when I walk my dogs, I take my pepper spray and my taser. I ain't messing around. Because you can't trust people, and it sucks. It sucks that you can't trust people. West Virginia, and you were from Georgia. Well, in West Virginia, do you have anything called Kmart? There was any Kmarts in West Virginia? I'm curious. And it's not really pertinent. I am curious. But yeah, there's just all kinds of nuts. So I was watching Netflix for the Woman of the Hour story. Okay, so you know what a Kmart is. You know what it looks like. I remember the flashing blue light sales. I was a kid, but I remember those. But yeah, he was staying kind of 2 aisles over, kind of staying with us, and I happened to notice he had his hands down his pants, and I was like, "You." Um, People were weird. They're gross. They're sick. But I was talking about that because of the Rodney Alcala thing, because he had killed so many girls, and then 3 years ago, it's closed. I hate there. If there's any in Texas, I have never seen one. I have never seen one in Texas. But when I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, we had tons of them. We had tons of them. Now, I do remember I worked at one in my early 20s. I didn't like it very much. I worked in the Kmart, the little diner area. They had like French fries and pretzels and sodas and hot dogs. That's what I did at Kmart. I worked in the food court thing. It was an okay job. It paid like 4.75 an hour. It was not my favorite job. I've had jobs that have been worse. I've had jobs that have been better, but I was young. I was trying to make ends meet. You know, you got to work. So, but no, yeah, and I've been here for about 13 years, and I've not seen one. When I first moved to Texas, I've seen commercials for Kmart's, but I never actually saw one. And when we first moved to Texas, let me give you a little bit of my history before I wrap this up. When we first moved to Texas, I moved from Kansas City, Missouri to Texas. When we first moved to Texas, we started out in Arlington. And I'm pointing out because like I'm looking at a map. So we started out in Arlington, the Arlington, Fort Worth, all that. We started out in Arlington, then we moved a bunch when I first moved to Texas. We moved from Arlington to Mansfield. We moved from Mansfield to I can't not Burleson. The other town, Joshua. We moved from Joshua to Godley, Texas. We moved from Godley back to Mansfield, and we moved from Mansfield eventually to North Austin, and then to Bastrop, and then to Cedar Creek. And then from Cedar Creek, we moved to Smithville, Texas. And then when I left my husband, I moved from Smithville to where I'm at now. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry. Um, I'm down here by Corpus. Um, I like it. That's why my name is Texas Beach Mom, because I live by the beach. Um, and before that, I was Mama Robin because everybody has always known me as Mama Robin. My kids, I was the mom on the block that all the kids went to. My kids came in with my kids' friends came in for water or soda or snacks or whatever. Like, I was the mom they went to. If they had problem if they had a problem and they didn't wanna talk to their parents about it, they would talk to me first, and then I would tell them how to talk to their yeah, I had the fun house. I was the cool mom with the fun house. I didn't like, all my kids' friends called me Mama Robin, have always called me Mama Robin. I can't remember a time that they didn't. As a matter of fact, I'm still friends with a few of them on Facebook, and I'm not on Facebook as Mama Robin, but that's what they still call me, is Mama Robin. Like, they'll send me messages or something, like, "How you doing, Mama Robin? How you been?" And I'm like, "Oh," right? Yeah, and these are people that I've known since my daughter was, like, 10. Don't talk to my daughter that much more, I understand, but they still talk to me a little bit. So, and I've always been Mama Robin, like, that's just been my thing. I was the fun house, the cool mom. They could come to me. I had girls come to me when they had their first time in the month. They'd be like, this is happening to me. What do I do about it? And how do I tell my mother?" So I would talk to them, tell them what to do and tell them how to, like, you need to sit down and talk to your mom about this. But, you need to let her know what's going on, but this is what I have here at the house now. We'll help you take care of it. I would explain it to them and send them talk to their mom. I've had a couple of parents kinda get mad, like, "You didn't have any right to talk to my kids about that." Mm, then maybe you should have spent more time talking to them. I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't have felt like they were afraid to talk to their parents. Maybe they should have been more comfortable talking to you, and they would have gone to you instead of me. Um, but yeah, I'm Mom Robin. But that was all I really had tonight as I wrapped it up with the Menendez brothers. And we talked a little bit about other bad people out there. I've had an interesting life. I'll take your advice. I'll consider writing a book. I've actually got a lot. I've got a lot that's happened to me in my life. Between me and my kids, I've probably got enough for a book. Um, I appreciate that because I had one or two parents that come to me going, "You should have talked to my kids about this. You should have sent them to me." I'm like, "I did suggest that they go to you, but maybe, just hear me out, mom. If your kids were more comfortable going to you, they wouldn't have come to me first." So I defended myself. I didn't if I felt like the subject matter was too much, I'd be like, "Look, I wanna help you with this, but your mom might get really, really mad at me if I do this. So why don't you try talking to your mom or your dad or whichever one is the easier parent to talk to?" I tried not to ruffle feathers, but I also tried to be helpful, and that's a very fine line to walk, you know? So, but yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I've been on here for a little over an hour. We mostly talked about Eric and Lyle. We did dip into other things because I always do on Friday nights. I always start out talking about one thing and I end up going to 900 different subjects because I have a lot up here. People wouldn't believe it to look at me, but I have a lot up here. I agree with you. I do. They were more comfortable talking to me because I was honest with the kids, but I was also compassionate. And in a lot of cases, they parents didn't seem as compassionate. Maybe just as honest, but because I always raised my kids the same way. I was always very honest with my children, but I also tried to be very compassionate. But I was always very honest. I never talked down to my children. I never talked to them like they were children. I always talked to them like they were little adults. I choose my words carefully because they are younger. Um, thank you. I like getting on here on Friday nights because I might start out with a subject and I might branch off into 100 different things throughout that night. Who knows? Um, no, I don't judge. I didn't judge. I don't. I have never ever I can't remember a time I've ever talked to a child like they weren't smart. I've always talked to them like they knew it, because most of the time, if they were asking me questions, they already had a general idea. They just needed some of the details filled in for them, and they weren't comfortable enough talking to their own parents, so they talked to me. And they would always come to me going, "Mama Robin, what?" I've had them say things like, "What is a period?" I'm like, "You mean the dot at the end of the sentence?" Because I was being smart ass. No, no. I think I'm having my first period. Can you tell me what it is and how it works and stuff like that? Boys didn't come to me as much, thank goodness, because I mean, wasn't really my forte. It was mostly girls, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a mom. I still enjoy being a mom. I mean, my kids are adults now, but I still enjoy being a mom. And I'm never going to be a grandma. Um, my oldest daughter can't, like, physically cannot have children. Trying to have a child would kill her. So that's not an option. And my youngest child has chosen a path in life that probably will not bring children. We'll just leave it at that. Um, so I'll never be a grandma, but I'm okay with that. I think I have a lot to offer as far as education. Thank you. Like I feel like there's things I could teach them, but my own kids would probably be able to teach them the same thing I could because I raised my kids and I raised them to be like me. Um, so there's that. But no, I look forward to Friday Night Lives. I'm still a little bit nervous when I do them, but not like I used to be. Um, I'm getting better at it. One of these days, I swear I'm going to buy equipment and learn how to use it so I can do better live streams and show clips of videos. I don't know. I'm kind of happy doing what I do. I kind of feel like it makes me unique. Um, I don't know how many of you watched which one, either one of you watched Wednesdays, but I talked about a new channel that's out there. Perfectly paired with. I've recommended that everybody go watch their Chris son needs a. Oh, honey, um I'll be a grandma. I mean, I'll be a grandma. Um, I happily I got wisdom. It's in here. It may not always sound like I have it, but I have it. Um, but what I started to say was this other channel. I wouldn't call me doting. Um, yes, I am. Me too. I wouldn't call me doting, but I do like to share my stories and my wisdom with the people that want to hear it. And I like to help out when I'm needed. I like to be the one that has the cookies, and I like to put band-aids on the boo-boos and send them back out to play and stuff. But the YouTube channel, I think they're actually a podcast, and they air it on YouTube. Perfectly paired with it's a channel, and I did recommend people go watch their Chris Watts stuff. Um, because I want other people to hear what they're saying, and I want people to discuss it with me in case I'm being overly critical. Um, you have some of the content creators that go, well, we don't think Shanann is responsible for her own death. No, 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 we would never say that. However, if she wasn't such a bitch, that's the kind of content they do. So I want people to go watch at least a little bit of their content and come back and talk to me about it because I watched it, but I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'm just being critical. Maybe I'm just critical. Maybe I'm being overly critical. So I'm wanting other people. Um, yeah, the name of their channel is Perfectly Paired With, like if you're perfectly pairing a wine with a cheese, Perfectly Paired With. From what I understand, they are a married couple. I do believe this is a podcast, and they show their podcast on YouTube. So it's not a lot of visual, it's a lot of audio. But they start out with things like, well, we would never say that Shanann is guilty for her own murder. I mean, like, she didn't cause her own death, but she was kind of a bitch and stuff like that. And I'm like, I wanted other people to go. What I've always recommended on my channel is don't take my word for things. Go watch their stuff yourself. Make your own decision. But I did bring them up because um, I want to make sure that I'm not being overly critical. I sometimes can be overly critical of other people. I don't mean to be. I don't start out trying to be. And I've never once gotten mad at anybody for making mistakes. I make mistakes every Wednesday. I make mistakes on Fridays. I make mistakes every day. Sometimes I have information that isn't correct. Sometimes I didn't. I misread the information. Sometimes I looked it up and got the wrong information. I make mistakes. I don't care if they make mistakes. What I got mad about was the way they were like, well, we're not saying that Shanana's to blame for her own death. That was heinous. She's not to blame for her own death, but she was kind of a bitch. And I'm like, and those aren't exact words. That's the other reason why I recommend people go watch them. I want people to watch it and see it for themselves. I want people to listen to it. Make your own decision, please. Yeah, I want to start saying I'm not perfect. I sometimes, and I explained it in Wednesday's video. I said, sometimes I'll be reading something and I'll be looking for something. I'll be like reading a paragraph, but I'm looking for a specific item, and I read and reread, and I can't find it, can't find it, can't find it. And then all it takes is for my kid to be like look over my shoulder at what I'm reading, and go, "Well, mom, what you're looking for is right there." And I look at it and go, "Where?" And no, lo and behold, it was right there. But I have misread things. I have misremembered things. I've made notes and noted wrong. I make mistakes all the time. And I'm still doing this crap. But so I'm not mad at this couple for making mistakes or not having all the information. What I got mad about was the fact that they just, well, we don't blame Shanann for her own death. No, we would never do that. But she was kind of a bitch. And it was one of the husbands saying it, but the wife was backing him up. And I'm like, if you don't agree with if, how as a woman, how as a woman can you agree with this? So what's the obsession seems to yep. I've talked about her before in my videos. Remember one of their first videos where I talked about her at all? She left me like a 3 paragraph comment. First of all, explaining herself. Well, actually, she spent almost 2 paragraphs defending herself, explaining and defending herself, and then she spent a couple of sentences ending paragraph going, "But I do find you intelligent," and what was the word she used? Intelligent? Intelligent and something else. And I responded to her comments. I said, "Well, thank you, first of all, for the compliment. I appreciate it, but that's why I called you out, because you do that. You say you don't do it, but then you do it. So, and as far as I know, she hasn't watched me since, or she hasn't commented since. I don't know if she's watched me or not. I think she watches me more than I realize because she makes jokes in her videos that are very similar to a joke I made. Could be coincidence. I mean, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I mean, it could be coincidence. And I've taken some of her jokes. I've heard jokes that she's made, and I've taken some of her jokes, but I've credited her for it in the video. I'll make a joke about Nikki, and I'll be like, and that comes from Kelly. So thank you, Kelly. But I credit her. I give her the credit for the joke. She makes similar jokes of mine, and then she doesn't credit me. So that's fine. And Amber from ATS has had her baby and is on maternity leave. so she's not doing any videos right now. Um, and I used to give her a lot of credit. And first of all, let me say this, and I am going to wrap this up. Let me say, first of all, I always give them credit because they do the research. They put together videos that are very good videos. They do the work that I don't know how to do. So I give them credit. I give them credit where credit is due. They do. I do my own research too, but they can put together a video that I have no clue on what to do with. I will first one to say so. So I've always given them credit. Congratulations, lady. It is a great video. What I don't like about either one of them is with Kelly, she does a lot of the, well, I would never blame Shanann for her own death, but she's one of those people. And with Amber, I'm learning that if you're not one of her favorites, you don't get listened to. You don't get listened to because I used to watch her lives. I used to make comments in her lives like y'all making mine. And she reads it when she's reading the comments out loud. She'll read off a bunch of them, then she'll skip right over my comment like it's like I said nothing. Like I've not said a word. So everyone that you got to be a favorite first. That's probably the biggest problem I have with Amber. I think Amber's an intelligent young woman. I think she does very good videos. I think she does a lot of research. I don't agree with her theories, but she wouldn't agree with my theories. Everybody has different theories about the case. And one of the reasons why there's so many theories out there is because Chris lies so much. If Chris didn't lie so much, we wouldn't be discussing it the way we do. But he does, he's lied. Now, I'm going to stick to this one theory, and I will stick to this until my last breath. I do believe that the confession he gave Dylan Tallman is the closest we're ever going to get to the truth. I believe the confessions he gave CBI and FBI are stupid confessions. Kelly seems phony and fake to me, and Amber doesn't want to hear anyone who doesn't agree with her. Exactly. Well, what I so there are so many theories out there, and I get that. But the reason why I stick so strongly to that one theory of mine is because it is the closest theory to Dylan Tallman. And I honestly believe of all the confessions that Chris has given to the FBI, the CBI, to that um that old woman, Letters from Chris, the one that wrote that book, Sherilyn Cadle, she's already admitted that the letters from Chris are from Chris. But the filler that in between the letters, she's admitted she made a lot of that stuff up. She can't really trust her book neither. But the book from Dylan Tallman, and I've talked about this book a lot in my videos. The books from Dylan Tallman, book 1, 2, and 3, the Cell Next Door, parts 1, 2, and 3. I believe that his books are the closest to the truth because I've always believed, and I will stand by this. Him, and because Chris has talked about this in his letters, and in Chris's book, it's talked about. Him and Dylan were really close friends. They were closest friends that Chris has had in a long time. He considered Dylan a brother. And when two men are got like a brother type friendship, they're going to be more honest with that man than they are with anybody else. I'm not saying I'm not saying that he didn't lie to Dylan some because he did. Because I absolutely don't believe that Shanann went after him with a knife. Absolutely don't believe it. Do not believe it. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Right. Chris did tell him that. That's what I'm saying. So I do believe, while I do believe that Chris did lie to Dylan too, I believe he was closer to the truth with Dylan than he was with anybody else. And I've heard these other content creators, YouTubers, whatever you want to call them, talk about Chris, and they talk about all the theories except for Dylan. They seem to ignore Dylan's theory, and I don't know why. I don't believe the knife thing at all. I don't believe the knife thing. I don't believe the knife thing at all, not in the slightest. But I do believe most of what Dylan says in this book. I think most of what he said is the truth. I believe that Chris told the truth. I would say 80% of what he told Dylan is the truth. I believe that Dylan's words are the closest we're ever gonna get. Oh, of course, he tried to make himself look less than monster because he's a narcissist. I'm not sure if he's, uh, overt, covert, whatever. He's a narcissist, period. And they all basically, there are exceptions, but they all basically behave the same way. They all basically have the same basic traits. So he's a narcissist, period. And they all try to make themselves look good and they try to make the other person look like crap. That's part of their whatever. Back, back to what I'm saying. Um, back to what I was saying. I do believe that the confession he gave Dylan's probably the closest confession, the closest to honest that we're ever going to get. I believe that's the closest one to honest, and I don't know why, but none of these other content creators, YouTubers, what they want to be called, I don't know why they dismissed Dylan's book so easily, but they'll cling on to Sherilyn Cadle's, even though Sherilyn Cadle admitted that a lot of her stuff was lies, and Dylan swears that's what Chris told him. And you know what? I've never talked to Dylan Tallman, but I have very briefly talked to his girlfriend in the chats because when I first started talking about his books, she was in my chats and she was leaving comments, and we kind of talked back and forth through the chats. I believe that he believes. I believe that Dylan believes it. That doesn't mean that Chris told him the truth. I believe he believes in what he wrote. And I believe with all my heart that that is the closest we're going to get to the truth. I will stand by Dylan's books more than I will anybody else's. And his books and my theories, and I'm not just saying this because they line up, but they line up. I still think she was killed in the basement. I had believed it was the foot of the stairs. I still kind of question that, but the dog did go off more by the bed. Are they certain the sheet that she was wrapped in came from the upstairs bedroom or could have come from the basement bed? I mean, I know there were sheets on it and the other one was stripped. Yeah, I was just having a moment. Anyway, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I appreciate you ladies for coming in tonight. Um, I know I've got the people that'll watch this later. I will be back Wednesday with more about Chris because something will happen. Um, I will be back next Friday night, maybe about Eric and Lyle. It depends on what all goes on with that case. If not, it might be about the Lady Bird Lake victims again, because I still want to get back into that. I still want to find more information on that. Still want to cover that. In the meantime, I appreciate everybody that came in tonight. I appreciate my thumbs up. I appreciate people that support me and that show me love. And I wish everybody to have a lovely night, a lovely week coming up. I don't know why my light color is changing, but whatever. I look more yellow. Um, I appreciate everybody that does everything. Like I appreciate everybody that watches my stuff. I appreciate the people that show up on Friday nights. Um, if you've had I basement, yeah, I do. I think it's the basement. I don't think it was the bedroom. I've given my scenario out a few times about what I think she did that night, what I think happened. Granted, it's my theory. It's only my theory, but I think it makes more sense than the explosion theory. That one just gets on my nerves. I'm like, within that explosion theory, you've got Chris knows about it, Nikki knows about it, Leave Jim alone knows about it, and Troy McCoy knows about it. Four people kept their mouth shut. Four people were involved in this, and they all managed to keep them. The more people know about this shit, the more likely it is to blow up. Um, yes. Y'all have a good night. I was wrapping up anyway. I'll be back Wednesday with more Chris. I'll be back next Friday with something. I don't know what. Y'all have a great night. I love y'all. Happy birthday, happy anniversaries, happy whatever. Take care of yourselves and each other.